are you a bunker guy? Like, would building a bunker be in your future at some point?
No, I'm not a doomsday prepper or anything like that. But I just thought it was neat that it was like in Pleasant Hills. Like, why would you need a bunker in Pleasant Hills? But it was that Cold War kind of time, you know?
Russia is like, you know what? Forget about D.C. We're going after Pittsburgh. We're going after Pleasant Hills.
Pittsburgh is it, man.
That's where we're going. How's it going, everyone? Welcome back to another episode of the Shawn and Matt Show. My name is Matt, that is Shawn, and welcome to our show. Shawn, in today's episode, we're going to be talking about how nearly half of new home buyers in the Southwest are backing out of their contracts and what that'll mean for the real estate market moving forward.
Wow.
We're going to be talking about the most affordable and the least affordable cities in the United States. Where does your income associated with how much you're paying in terms of housing per month, where does that stack up? Affordable, top 10, most affordable. Then we're also going to get into the top 3 properties that we're going to look at for in or out, whether Shawn battles in or out on 3 properties. One of them is a $200 island.
$200?
$200 million.
200 million.
200 million. Just a couple commas.
Zeros off there,
couple commas off. Couple commas off there. All right, let's start with an article from Inman.com. Nearly half the new home buyers in the Southwest are backing out.
Wow.
So, Shawn, essentially there was a survey done, and Inman got their news from wolfstreet.com.
Okay.
So, survey done for new home builders on how many buyers are actually backing out of properties. And so for October 2022, this is now 2 months old, but still kind of gives a good idea of home buyers backing out. For October 2022, the cancellation rate nationwide was just under 27%. So that is the highest it's been in many years, and it's been broken down by geographic area. So the Southwest led the way with a 45% cancellation rate. Texas, Northwest, Northern California right behind them at 39%, 30%, and 28% respectively. And to give you an idea, like Texas, for example, 39% cancellation rate, up from 12% a year ago. So a year ago, 12%. Now Texas, which is, in second place, if you will, is at 39%. So Shawn, when you're seeing all of these cancellations for new builds, what comes to mind?
Man, that is huge. And you know what? This is par for the course right now as far as how the interest rates have affected the real estate market. This is actually a huge number of cancellations. Now, new construction, I used to do new construction for a while, and we always saw cancellations. There's always going to be somebody that's backing out. They get cold feet. That's understandable. But right now, what is causing this? If you think about new construction, right? A typical house in this area, like I did a few last year, I think it took between 6 and 8 months from the time you go under contract to the time you actually move into your house. Probably about eight months, maybe a little more, depending on the builder, depending on what they're building and how far along they are. Now, sometimes you go under contract and it's just a lot. It's barren land and you've got to get all this stuff. But if you're going with one of these big builders, they've got everything pretty much running as a system. But what happens here is that you go under contract and you have to be approved basically for your financing within 30 to 45 days. That's usually what a contract is going to say, a builder contract. Now, keep in mind, these builder contracts are not your regional contracts that we would use. These are builder-sided contracts that they're going to create for themselves. They protect themselves more than anything. But there's a 30 to 45 day period that you have to be approved in that contract from the time you ratify it, meaning the day that you and that builder say, hey, okay, we're good on the price and everything else. But what happens is you have to wait and wait and wait this whole time until the house is done. So you could have been approved at the first 45 days at 3.5%. But now, as we've seen, these interest rates have skyrocketed quicker than we've ever seen before. And now that same person that was approved at 3.5 might still be approved at 6.5, right? That's the thing. If you're still approved at 6.5, hey, sorry, you didn't lock in. And that's the one thing that you always have to think about when you're doing new construction. Are you going to lock in your interest rate right now? And lenders will allow or give you, a free lock up to, 45 days, 60 days possibly. But anything beyond that, you're going to have to lock in with that interest rate, meaning you're going to have to pay either an upfront cost right now. Hey, I'm going to pay you 0.5% or whatever it is to lock in. And sometimes those locks are longer, sometimes they're shorter. And if they're longer, they're going to be more expensive. So when I was thinking about purchasing new construction, and I actually pulled out the next day after I thought about it a little bit longer. I'll go into that some other time. But my fear even back then was interest rates. Oh my gosh, this is a big purchase. Am I going to do it? So that whole interest rate pop is killing people. Now, the other thing that you have to remember is that in a new home sales contract, in a resale contract, we're putting a deposit of 1, 2, 3%, sometimes a little higher, 5% depending. In a new home sales contract, you're putting 5, 10, 15, 20% as a deposit on some of these things. Then you go to the thing afterwards and pick out all the stuff you want in the house, and your deposit goes up even further. So you back out and your deposit is pretty darn big. Like I did one this year. The deposit alone was $300,000. You're buying a $1.3 million home. Yeah, we did that to secure the lot because it was competitive at the time. But you're talking $100,000. Are you going to just walk away from that? Because again, that builder-sided contract is probably going to keep them in.
Have you had any of your clients this year back out of new home sales?
Not of a new home sales, thankfully.
I had one back out. We wrote the contract, it was accepted, and there was a 3-day HOA doc, and they were like, you know what? We don't really like this one as much.
Yeah.
We're just going to see what's on the resale market. And they bought a better resale, in my opinion.
Yeah. And this happens all the time. Even it just happened to me last month. People get cold feet all the time. And when you have an HOA or a condo document review period, they can back out for no reason whatsoever. So the other thing I want to talk to you about in new home construction, right, is in the contract, there is usually a period of time they say that they have to build your house, right? Normally, hey, it's going to take 6 months. We should have it done in 6 months. But in the contract that I just went and reviewed, I went to look to see how long that period was. They had up to 2 years to deliver your home. Not 6 months, 2 years. So if anything happens, they're still not in default of the contract for 2 years to deliver that home. Think about what happens to markets in 2 years, right? The other clause in there was, aside from that, if anything unforeseen comes up, like supply chain issues, right? The issues that are affecting us right now that we had never thought about before, but now we know. Those things, whatever delay that occurred that pushed it, they can add to the 2 years. So now you're waiting for this house. You've put a huge deposit down. Your interest rate has gone up. What are you going to do? And not only that, values are dropping, right? So you went under contract for $900,000 for your brand new home in Texas. And now, it's worth $800,000 and you're still in it and you've got $100,000 deposit. What do? Do you just walk away from the $100,000? Well, your value's gone down $100,000. So there's so many things to think about in new construction and so many things to be wary about. And this is going to happen more and more and more.
It's so interesting because when my buyer was backing out of the contract by the way, I don't know if it's going to be $900,000 new construction in Texas.
Yeah, I just said a number because,
But it made me think, my buyer was going under contract for like a $900,000 purchase. And then they, I was talking with the agent and I was like, yeah, we're going to back out. And she's like, oh, that's fine. We're probably going to raise prices next week anyways. So essentially, that was March of 2021 where we were under contract. And then if anyone backed out of their new home sales, the new home sales agent was like, okay, that's fine. We're going to just raise prices because we can't get rid of these things fast enough.
Absolutely. And now the opposite is happening. So another thing I wanted to point out is a lot of times in these contracts, there's no appraisal contingency, right? So usually when the builder, the financing, they have a lot of sales to keep the values up because it's just churning in this big development. But what happens when we see things happen like now and these property values keep coming down? Is that appraiser going to be able to keep that value? Well, a lot of those went under contract for a long time ago, but what if those fall out and now they're worth less? So the funny thing is, you think about, oh, what if it doesn't appraise? What is the builder going to do? But in reality, right now, they don't want these people backing out because the values have dropped. So they don't want to have to try to resell this. So in some ways, not having an appraisal contingency could hurt you. But at the same time, you're like, well, do you really want this coming back on the market? Because you're going to have to sell this for a lot less. And maybe you have a little negotiation power there, even though you're kind of under contract, right? Because they don't want you to back out,
Yeah, and in the Southwest, 45% cancellation rate. Last year, it was 9%. So that has just shot right
insane.
up. And, with 45% of the people in the Southwest canceling, I'm curious to know how quickly they're able to move this product once it's back on the open market. I think the survey was like 20% of the entire national home builders. So it is a smaller slice, but it does share and shed light on a bigger picture of just how many of these home buyers are just, throwing in the towel and saying, no, I can't do it anymore.
Yeah, and it's so funny. I mean, I'll say one more thing about home builders and realtors and how this all works, but like, the thing that drives me crazy about home builders, and if you're watching, you know who you are, because a lot of times they'll say, I hate realtors. And I'm not saying everyone, but they'll play that game that, I don't like realtors because we have to pay them, basically. But what happens is when the market's really hot, they pay nothing. Sometimes they won't pay you anything. And then when the market's slow, like right now, they're like, I'll pay you whatever you want. Just please bring us a client. And it's like, if you would just normalize that and just stay consistent, you'd probably be better off.
Preach.
I'm preaching, man. I'm tired of it,
Not a sermon, just a thought. All right, let's move on to our next topic. This comes to us from the New York Times. Where are the most and least affordable homes? A new study compares the median home prices against household income to determine affordability. So, Shawn, any guesses on the least affordable cities in the United States where the income is like a very high percent? Like, where are people spending 80% of their income on housing, where the median income for a city, if you were to do that as a rent payment, is very high?
I mean, I always say this, but it's probably that Midwestern city.
No, just think of expensive cities.
Oh, okay.
I don't think I phrased it correctly.
Okay. All right. So we're talking LA, we're talking New York.
All right, no peeking at my
Miami.
No peeking at my laptop.
I wasn't peeking.
I'll go through the top 10. So you've already mentioned a couple of them. So Jersey City, San Diego, Oakland, Long Beach, San Francisco, Hialeah, Florida, Newark, New Jersey, New York, LA, and Miami are the top three. So, Miami, LA, New York, and it's essentially percent of income spent, versus on housing. And when you look at the median household income for Miami, it says $44,000, and then the December median home price $598 with a monthly payment of $3183. I don't think the people that are making $44,000 per year are living in places that cost 86% of their income. I think they're looking at a median household income to include renters and homeowners alike. I don't think people spend. I mean, there are definitely people out there spending 86% of their income, but I don't think if you're making $44,000 a year, you're buying a $600,000 house.
Well, where that could change in Miami, Florida, might be a really good example of this is the retirees, right? They're not making any money; they're just paying themselves out of retirement. So that might be where that is skewed a little bit. And they're just probably buying things with cash of their old, investments or selling their old home. And so their actual income from their retirement is $44,000. I can't imagine that being any different. Making $44,000 and buying a $800,000 or $500,000 place you're not going to get approved. I mean, these are typical where we thought it would be. But the thing is, you would think that the amount of money you can make in these cities is much higher than you can in Pittsburgh and Ohio and all these other areas because there's just much more there. But maybe I'm wrong.
You might be doing some spoiler alerts for the most affordable cities.
Okay, see that?
Hialeah, which I'm pretty sure I'm pronouncing wrong, is just outside of Miami. So essentially, and dude, Miami is always on these lists, right?
Yeah.
It's like, where's the most of like what city's gonna bubble? Where's the most expensive city? It's always like Miami.
Mm-hmm.
Any other surprises? I mean, San Diego, obviously. San Francisco, it's $126,000 is the median household income, and if you bought the median home price of 1.4, you're spending 67% of your income. That's just a disaster.
It is. And that's, I would think that San Francisco, in that case, the prices are so high that would be number one, you would think. But, I wonder why DC isn't on this list, the Northern Virginia suburbs, because, we're pretty high priced. People make a lot of money here, I guess, because of the government and, all the industry here. But it's surprising that we're not.
I know Arlington's median household income is
a lot higher.
Is probably six figures.
Yeah.
And the median home price is close to $600,000.
Yeah.
But you'd have to have like a San Francisco median type of home price to make it on a list like this. Yeah. Well, let's look at the most affordable cities for homeowners. Shawn,
okay.
Any thoughts? You've already said one of the most affordable. There was a city on our list last week which predicted the 2023 best real estate markets that is on this list as well. Any other thoughts?
Was my old hometown, one of them?
Coming in at number 10 is the Berg.
The Berg. I'm telling you, man, it's super affordable. You can find houses for $100 and something thousand, and they're little tiny houses, but still, I mean, if you want to just live comfortably and live life not worrying about big expenses and things like that, Pittsburgh's it. And honestly, I look at investing in Pittsburgh because you can actually afford and cash flow there. There are opportunities there where you can actually cash flow. We're here.
Buy the block.
You could buy the block compared to here. You buy one house,
Shawn, there's a city in Virginia. Any guesses on what
in
city?
Virginia? I would
in Virginia.
Is it a pretty decent sized city? Richmond?
It's not Richmond.
No. Okay, so we're gonna go with no, I don't know.
5, 4, 3, 2. So the list is Pittsburgh at 10, Omaha, Virginia Beach, Anchorage, Louisville, Kentucky, which was on our list last week, Lubbock, Cleveland, and then top 3, Detroit, Fort Wayne, Indiana, and then Wichita, Kansas coming in at number 1, where people spent 16% of their income. Median household income, $59,000. December median home price, $145,000.
Yeah, you look at Detroit. Look at that. You can buy a house for $90,000. Is the median? Is that the median sales price?
December median home price, $90,000. I mean, we kind of have to read between the lines because if you're an investor and you're buying properties for $20,000 in December, like that's going to show up.
Yeah.
And then, median household income for Wichita, Kansas is $60,000, and you're going to tell me the median household income for Miami is $44,000. Maybe that makes sense on paper with like service jobs and things like that and public service. But, yeah, I mean, it's definitely like a edutainment, like educational list.
Yeah.
I'm thinking Louisville is might be the place to be.
Yeah. Louisville, baby. The other thing you have to think about Miami is there are so many foreign investors there. So those foreign investors are skewing the prices because they're just buying these high prices all the time, which are pushing up values and making it harder for the people that actually live there to afford them. So, two things to think about in Miami is foreign investors and retirees.
So the lowest monthly payment on this list was Detroit, which came in at an average of $554 for December. Take that with a grain of salt.
Yeah.
The highest monthly payment, to no surprise, San Francisco, $7,000 with the December median home price of 1.4. So most affordable cities for homeowners, definitely places to watch. I mean, I think the obvious ones like Detroit are always on these lists, but Louisville is, what's the saying? At first you caught my attention. Now at first you caught my eye, now you have my attention. So there's a famous
Louisville
movie quote, but Louisville.
In 2 weeks. Yeah.
Well, we had mentioned Florida a couple times, so let's get into in or out, whether Shawn Battle is in or out on 3 different properties, and let's go to Palm Beach, Shawn.
Okay.
The only private island in Palm Beach is for sale. 10 Tarpon Island is for sale for $218 million. It is 11 bedrooms, 15 full bathrooms. It actually sold recently I believe for $83 million, and then they completely redid it. They added a new pool, and essentially it's accessible by boat and by car and by bridge, making it the most secluded spot on Billionaires Row. Shawn, are you in or out on Tarpon Island for $218 million?
I am 100% in on
He's
this
in.
Amazing property. Holy cow. This thing is, when I saw the first picture, it looked like a computer rendering because it was just so perfect. Look at that.
I mean,
thing.
it kind of might be a computer rendering because it
I mean,
was.
look at that.
It was recently renovated. I don't see a helipad on here, but maybe you could carve out a little chunk next to your lighted tennis court.
So the island is rectangular. It's just so cool. Like it's a, man-made island, rectangular. There's a bridge coming over to it. That is amazing. It has 2 pools, huge white structure.
I was thinking
is...
like rising sea levels could be an issue because you're in Florida and you're on a man-made island. But I saw a video of it, and there's like the sea levels would have to rise like significantly, like 4 feet, which probably will happen, but maybe hopefully not in our lifetime.
Yeah.
But dude, I am so in on
that thing.
The
is
private
one of the coolest things I've seen.
It was renovated by now I'm gonna mess up his name, Michael, someone who is like one of the best, developed by Todd Michael Glazer, who's allegedly one of the best developers in the Miami area. So listing comes to us from Christian Engel, broker president for the listing down there. So Shawn and I are both in on the $208 million island. Okay.
We gotta do some more sales to get that one though.
Let's go over to Nebraska and check out a former missile silo in Nebraska that is now for sale. Slightly different than a $200 million
Not as picturesque,
island.
Matt.
Not as picturesque. So, in the Cold War, there were missile silos, to beat, the Ruskies. Thankfully, we didn't have to use them, but this property is now for sale in Elmwood, Nebraska for $250,000. And what a missile silo is it's kind of exactly what it sounds like. For a missile, you'd have to put it very deep into the ground, and then you put this like cover over it to protect it. And now it's decommissioned. People, the soldiers did live there at one point, and you could imagine just the chaotic condition that it's in. And, it's $250,000 and, maybe 20 minutes outside of Lincoln, Nebraska. So it's a little DIY sort of situation, but it's also pretty cool because you got your own command center. And if you are a doomsdayer, then you kind of have a head start on your bunker situation. So, Shawn, are you in or out on a $250,000 former missile silo in Nebraska?
Matt, by looking at, this is a really cool concept to purchase a missile silo, but I am completely out on this one because the aerial footage got my attention, and it looks like it's a junkyard, basically. People just scattered their stuff all throughout this whole acre and a half.
Do you have the vision of it? Do you have the vision?
Yeah, but the vision is you're going to spend so much in the middle of Nebraska to get this vision going. It could be very cool, but it's decrepit. It needs so much work that I think the amount of money that you're going to have to put into this property to make it anything cool is way too much. So I think the price is going to have to come down before I'm in. I like the concept, but the condition, I'm out.
So this is actually the second time that a decommissioned missile silo has been for sale. The first one sold in 12 days to a YouTuber, and now he's making like crazy YouTube videos about it. So I think that's maybe one of your buyers bought as a novelty purchase.
There you go.
So I think I'm out on the Bombshell. I'm out on the missile silo, but just by a hair. Just by the slightest of hairs. There's
some cool things about it. I want to bring up one thing about this while we're talking about this. In my neighborhood where I grew up in Pleasant Hills was the first house that had a bunker in it, an underground bunker. And it was like below a wishing well. It was the coolest thing. Just wanted to
Are you a bunker guy? Like would building a bunker be in your future at some point?
No, I'm not a doomsday prepper or anything like that. But I just thought it was neat that it was like in Pleasant Hills. Like, why would you need a bunker in Pleasant Hills? But it was that Cold War kind of time, you know?
Russia is like, you know what? Forget about D.C. We're going after Pittsburgh. We're going after Pleasant Hills.
Pittsburgh is it, man.
That's where we're going.
Big steel industry back then. So
okay, enough.
And honestly, they used to close those. They closed those steel mills, and they made bombs. Did you know that?
No.
They actually made bombs in those steel mills. So there you go.
All right, let's go to the third property. This is a mid-century modern charmer in Wisconsin that is shaped like a ship, and it is on the market for $365,000. It's essentially a time capsule, and then when you get inside, it's supposed to look and feel like a ship. The sellers bought it in March. They decided it was too big for them. Only 2 owners. Everything about it is ship-like. And for you mid-century modern lovers out there, this could be a pretty cool pickup in Wisconsin. So, Shawn, are you in or out on a ship-like mid-century modern for $365,000?
I love mid-centuries, man. I'm in. I haven't seen the ship-like look, but I can see kind of the sailish look in the front of it. I love the mid-century style. And so I think when you can get one, you buy it. Hold on to it. Those things are always going to be, there's always going to be those mid-century modern freaks that just want it, and I'm kind of one of them. So I like it. I'm buying it.
Dude, I'm so out on mid-century modern. I don't want if I want a house that looks like a ship, it's got to be near a body of water. Like you can tell me there's going to be a ship in Nebraska.
You just say mid-century.
Where are we? Wisconsin. Maybe there's a body of water in Wisconsin near Green Bay.
Yeah,
fine,
sure. Yeah.
But I'm out on a ship like. We did the one ship like house like in Michigan or whatnot, and it was like on the water. Kind of cool.
But you know what? The difference between that one, it was cool, but it actually looked like a ship. This, when you look at the front, it doesn't look like a stretch. I don't think it looks like a ship at all.
I think we would need a better initial photo. When you look at the kitchen, this kind of looks like, okay, I could see how maybe, but like when you're inside, it's like, all right, well, this is just a house that has a shag carpet and no windows.
I think they're stretching on that whole ship thing.
They're really pushing the ship.
Yeah, I don't see it.
I'm out. All right, well, would love to know what you all think about the ship-like house and maybe a $200 million island. Are you in the market? Because Shawn and I know some great agents down in the Palm Beach area we can hook you up with. Be sure to drop us a comment. Hit the thumbs up button if you haven't already. Subscribe if you're into us, if you're into the show. And until next time, we'll see you then.
Take care.